Game number 2, everybody. Tomb of the Spider Queen. We have TBD, the bees, in the lead right now, and beGenius is actually banning out the Tacita. So, as a losing team, you have the choice between map pick or you getting first pick in the next game. So far, every single time we've seen a team lose, they wanted to have the map choice over anything else. This game is a bit of a difference because we were already surprised when Tomb was selected and thought that was slightly weird since beGenius was supposed to be the map picker, but it's more of a TBD map, and it turns out that beGenius decided to be first pick, first ban in the set, which is why Tomb of the Spider Queen is now being played. And we're starting things off right away with the Tychus pick once more for beGenius, banning out the Tacita, apparently a little bit tired of going up against Tracers and any kind of Tacita shenanigans here. But yeah, we have in game number 2, 1-0 in the best of 5 in favor of the two Bs as we are heading into the second match of our semi-final number 2 here at the HGC qualifier for Europe number 1.
And 2B's determined immediately going into wave clear. Mafurian with the potential for that Moonburn and the Johanna straight away. So they're going to have a good rotation off the bat. Need to set up themselves some damage, set up themselves a solo laner, and this looks like a solid draft.
Yeah, and if we would have seen different bans here, I would have even thrown in the Cho'Gall again. TBD loves to play that. They did that several times, especially on this map and on Infernal Shrines. But with Tychus already been taken and the bans as they are, I highly doubt that this is going to be the case. Also, particularly because TBD doesn't have that double last pick that they usually use for a Cho'Gall. But with TBD, you never know. One of the bans that I more or less expected also to come into play is Medivh, since TBD loves to play Medivh with ADRD, and they actually have this. This is one of the maps where they play a ton of Medivh, so we might see that in the second ban phase. For now, though, it's still a little bit standard. The wave clear, as Thatcher was pointing out, is being locked down for TBD. And beGenius with a solid Muradin, since ETC is banned out, opening that up again. And they really like their Zul, don't they? Oh, maybe not.
Maybe not. Going for the support here, not going for either Brightwing or Ariel. The Rhaegar's been very popular in this series especially. Both teams prioritizing him over some of the other healers that we do see here. Zul, though, like you said, they are big fans of that. It's just whether they want to grab a support before some of them are banned, or whether they want to try and get something to counter the rotation here.
And then they go into a completely different hero to have a bit more poke available to them. I mean, there is a lot of options right now. The hero pool is getting bigger and bigger in Heroes of the Storm, and it really shows in the drafts. So Rhaegar is most likely not being banned here, let's be honest for a moment. So beGenius should have access to that later on in the draft, unless TBD is really trying to target something here, which is a bit unlikely. If anything, I would expect them to maybe ban out Zul. I think that's the more likely story to happen here.
Yeah, there is actually even a possibility of 2B's determined picking up the Zul, just getting the insane set for rotation here, and finishing up with range damage and a solo laner. But I agree, it's probably more likely for them to ban it out as their rotation is already immensely effective. So maybe just adding in more damage to try and get through that Muradin might be better for them. But they're going to ban out, by the looks of it, a solo laner.
Yeah, trying to make sure that they have the bot lane secured so far. I mean, they played Alarak in the last game. I could see them with the Karrigan here, since Blade loves to play Karrigan too. We've seen him play that a lot on Infernal Shrines, previously also on Tomb. But with Karrigan, Alarak, he has some really good choices that he can make. Banning out the Chen at the bot lane is going to give them a bit of an advantage there, I suppose. I could have even seen a ban on Thrall, because I more or less expect beGenius to take Thrall here again. They seem to have a bit of an affinity to playing the hero, and on Tomb of the Spider Queen he gets value. So unless TBD themselves are trying to play him, I would expect beGenius to say, yep, we're going to go for the War Chief again.
I would agree. So, like you said, unless 2B's determined, steal that away for their solo laner, which could easily be possible, seeing as they do know beGeniuses are playing it. So it could be a very solid steal for them. They'd get their solo laner, which they'd be fine with. They'd lose out on the Alarak, but Thrall equally as effective in most of the games nowadays, if not sometimes a bit more effective if your Earthquakes can be solid.
TBD now with a double pick, and that's going to tell us a lot. So again, we've been throwing Medivh in a little bit earlier as a potential pick. We can see them picking up the Thrall. They need a bot laner, Thrall, Karrigan, Alarak. All good picks here for Blade. Real comfort picks for him as well. And they are going to try and win that solo lane. But they can also drop that. Yeah, they're picking it away. Okay, that makes that Chen pick explains that a lot more. So they're actually banning out the Chen instead of the Thrall, because they were planning on picking Thrall themselves. Zarya for ADRD again, so we're going to see those shields, which also eliminates more or less Medivh from a potential pick for TBD. which they like to play here. But this is really solid for them once more.
Yep, so solo laners for beGenius are now very limited. We saw if we were watching the Diamonds, we were watching Diamond Skin earlier, they very much seemed to like the Leoric in this case. I still would personally prioritize the Alarak probably in the scenarios. He's one of the few people who can sort of counter poke the roll from range with his lightning. Rhaegar, the support they were already hovering over, still good, but they could also get the Zul and maybe leave Li Ming to try and outpoke, or Tychus to just try and out-sustain Thrall in the bottom lane instead.
I would expect them to go for a dedicated bot laner still. I mean, they could
agree.
switch that around, but I think it's a little bit more likely that we're going to see another ad there. Thrall, then again, should have a decent time down at the bot lane, and the Earthquake right now after the patch is just super strong, especially for potential boss fights.
Yeah, I will say, I'm just glad that it's now possible for the action in the Thrall trailer to take place, where basically in the Thrall trailer he drops Earthquake and everyone around him dies. The heroes who that happens to would have had to be on like 2 hit points for it to currently happen, but in the past it wasn't even possible. And there is the Arthas for beGenius. That is potential for solo lane if he goes for Q build.
Yeah, so Arthur's now taken, okay. Not quite what I expected here, but the double front line and a Jaina as the follow-up. That would not be what I expected as the dedicated damage dealer from the backline here. He's very cooldown based, and even a hammer I would say makes more sense for them. Like any kind of more like sustainable damage with like auto attacks or something that has like is not as cooldown heavy as a Vala, as a Jaina. A Jaina of course can like blow a target up, no question about that. But the problem that you still have with it is that once the cooldown is used, if you don't kill with it, because Rhaegar has an Earth Shield or anything that he can drop on top of it, then it's like fine. But Hammer, definitely changing the pace of the game a little bit. Also great pick for them here, I feel. Tomb of the Spider Queen is our next map. Map number 2, so guys, let's jump in right away. It's a best of 5. Keep that in mind. TBD has the lead, and we are heading into Tomb of the Spider Queen, the second map against beGenius. So... yeah, when I talked about the prize money earlier, the one thing that actually like surprises me quite a bit the entire time is every single time we talk about like it's actually not even the prize money, it's like the money that you get when you qualify for the league, the 100,000 divided by 5 players, so 20k without prize money, without team salary, and without like sponsor deals or anything. It always surprises me that every single time that discussion happens, people are immediately saying that you can't live off 20k. Which kind of blows my mind a little bit, knowing how esports
can
evolved. I mean, nobody's saying that you're going to buy yourself a Ferrari on top of that, but...
you just need a place to live and to feed yourself, and then you can just do what you love.
Yeah, I mean, like, of course, we all want to earn more, no doubt about that, but I think for, like, no question how much it is, no question if you can actually make it happen or not, it's an amazing move by Blizzard, because you have the time now finally to focus a lot more time and energy to heroes. But people are always like arguing, especially when I say that the first years in esports I lived off less in Berlin, which is also not really the cheapest city. They say like, it's before taxes. Well, back then I earned less than 20k before taxes, and it was still working out. And I didn't live in poverty or anything. So I'm not quite sure what the poverty line is right now. People make that argument the entire time. Yeah, but I really think that people underestimate a little bit or how well you can live with little money. I'm not quite sure what people spend their money on, but like it's surprising sometimes.
I agree. It's a very strange the amount of money people seem to consider you need to live.
Especially for the age that we're talking about here.
Yeah, the age and also the location. We're not, for a lot of these players, we're not talking like Berlin, London, and all those places. We're talking for like smaller cities, smaller places.
I was even talking about Berlin.
I know, exactly. So you can live that much in Berlin.
In the middle of Berlin,
taxes, in the middle of Berlin. Whereas if you can just find somewhere, for a lot of these places, especially in some of the European countries, it's a lot of a cheaper cost of living.
And again, when we start this discussion, guys, it's like, no, you're wrong. It's just like, the discussion itself surprises me a little bit sometimes. And it's always, of course, like, the more money you have, of course, everybody wants more. But it's just a baseline that you have guaranteed so they can focus on the game, which is amazing. I mean, consider yourself when you were 16 years to 20 years old. And yeah, especially if you live in shared apartments, which at least in Europe is totally normal, you can get really nice places for very little per month. So
yeah,
that,
I mean, just imagine the difference between this 2016 season and 2017 season. A lot of these players, especially on some of the teams in this qualifier, would have been playing purely for the prize money in tournaments. We're basically aiming to get as high in the tournament as possible to get as much prize money as possible. And that was basically what would make it worth it. Now, you give them the possibility, you give them that situation to basically have consistent income, as opposed to purely relying on, is my team going to disband and I'm going to lose everything in between regionals?
So I absolutely agree with everybody. The discussion is, of course, one that can last forever. But this statement that 20,000 is living in poverty is, in my opinion, total crap. Like, I lived off less very well, so I don't see it that way. But of course, more is always better, so I'm not arguing with that. But it's a really nice baseline salary that you have to make a living for yourself and focus on the game itself. And on top, with prize money and everything else that comes on top of it, I feel like the future of these guys for 2017 looks amazing. Game number 2, everybody, is starting up here. We have the Bees going up against beGenius, and it is the 1-0 lead in the best of 5 series that we currently have for the team in blue here. Blade on Thrall, we're seeing Curson on Malfurion, we have Nick on Sergeant Hammer, Bad Benny here again at the front line, this time with Johanna, and ADRD helping out on this map as before with Zarya. To the right side, the French team, tank for the win on Muradin. We have Danatan on Arthas, rocking that double tank front line. Arcane on Tychus, unstable on Rhaegar, and Kieva is playing Li Ming here. The lead in the best of 5 series, here at the semi-final for the Bees, for the determined ones. But let's see how the French can push back in this series, because they played a very nice first game, even though in the end they lost.
Indeed, they did. So we're starting off with a little bit of minion block for both teams. Hammer leaving her first talent a little bit. She is now deciding, though, on the Regeneration Master, which is good because the rotations make globes on this map quite easy.
Yeah, Sergeant Hammer, of course, in this game is going to have a massive impact. The auto attack is going to be very strong. It's exactly what they needed. The sustainable damage in addition to the rest of the setup here. Pretty excited to see how Nick is going to play this. For now, though, he's staying so far behind, of course. He has 2 heroes to help him out here with a double support. Arthas has taken the bot lane, of course, against Thrall, as we have the rest of the teams rotating around.
Yeah, rotating around, grabbing globes at least for 2 B's determined, whereas beGenius just trying to keep up with the rotation as their wave clear is a little bit inferior right now. They're kind of relying on Li Ming especially to try and land some very good orbs into the biggest clump of minions possible to try and clear those up very quickly.
ADRD, of course, with his... we had some really great games before from 2B's Determined on this map, and heavily it was also thanks to ADRD's heroic abilities being used to isolate heroes later on. The rotation at the beginning of the game didn't really work quite as well for him the last time we saw him here, but I'm really excited to see what they can do now, not only with that, but also with the Earthquake being used on Thrall later on. So I'm pretty excited for level 10s to be dropped there.
Level 10 is going to be very fun and very exciting. Nick just harassing at the moment as best he can. He was already scary on Tracer. They've now put him on basically the opposite of Tracer, less mobility. I'm going to stand still and do my auto attack damage as opposed to going very, very fast past him.
I mean, overall, we're still seeing a massive play here the entire time from the teams. I actually like the way that they are starting to push this. They're using Hammer whenever they can to drop a bit of extra damage in, and you can already tell that they are starting to win the 2 lanes here. The one where they are struggling a little bit is down at the bot lane. We saw occasional rotations hitting Thrall, and he is in a position where Arthas is giving him a pretty hard time, as you can already tell at the towers here, where both are running out of ammunition.
Yeah, Arthas has been doing a pretty good job sustaining himself through that lane thanks to his own Q. And ADRD has been positioning himself this entire game so far really, really nicely to make it so that the Nick does not take any of this poke damage from Kira here.
Talking poke damage, I mean, in the mid lane, by now we have Hammer also with a focused attack that can be used here. They're starting to really poke their opponent down quite nicely. But I like what Rhaegar is doing here. This is something that we don't really see all that often. Going for an early siege camp down at the bottom of the map, but of course it puts them into a position where 3 heroes have to hold mid and top lane, and that makes it even harder for them. But they have huge pressure against Thrall now, who is in an even worse situation than before, and it forces a rotation, which is actually interrupted.
And Rhaegar actually positioned himself perfectly while grabbing that camp. He used his healing totem, level 4 talent, to scout out the bush to make sure that if anyone came, he would be fine. He would have been able to pull back, and it healed him, allowing him to take the camp a little bit more sustained. Right now, big root onto Malfurion, followed up by a stud, and Curson is deleted thanks to that Frostborn Hungers from Danatan.
Curson taken down. I like how beGenius is setting this up. I think that Hammer in particular is having a huge potential to make the time of the French team extremely difficult here, but they are doing very well with this. The small rotation with Rhaegar to the bot lane to get the camp already paid off, even though they risk running into problems here at the top of the map. They also lost, of course, also here at the wall a lot of hit points and the ammunition, but overall they have their own style approaching this map right now, and it's kind of working out for them.
Yeah, beGenius putting a lot of pressure onto the bot lane, whereas To Be Determined are using the hammer very efficiently up in the mid and top lane. So right now, it is still not one team taking a huge lead over the other. It's a slight advantage, like we mentioned, for beGenius, thanks to this bottom lane. But To Be Determined, very much not out of this yet. However, they do have to defend this Web Weaver wave as best they can, or that we're going to start to see a significant lead happen for beGenius.
Yeah, beGenius now starting to make their play with objective, and that is where they can also drop the first forts here. So you're totally right. This is going to be a really difficult defense, especially considering that we don't have level 7 talents for them yet. So they have to do it with the opponent having a massive lead here, which is actually reflected in the mid lane, pushing in very hard with 4 heroes, focusing it down. So a lot of value being gained here, even with Hammer being part of the defense. Going into the Hyper Coolant Engine's own level 7. But keep in mind, earlier on against the Team Diamond skin, we saw also TBD fall behind on this map a bit. And once that they started to head into the late game, they just turned it around against the opponent completely.
Yep, this is what can happen if you're not careful. And Blade, currently, this is what has been happening basically the entire time. Danatan bullying him out of lane, and with that Icebound Fortitude especially, even if he gets ganked, he's going to be pretty okay for the moment. And right now he has the opportunity to rotate to see if he can grab anyone, but we see To Be Determined going very aggressively to try and grab Tychus, but the W from Fat Penny does not land, and as such they're only able to do a bit of harassment and give ADRD some more energy.
There we have also a bit of a siege again to put the pressure in. Overall a level behind. If they can get that turn in, they can make up for that. But right now we have level 7 talents versus level 7. The gem count is there. The one thing that really concerns me slightly is that there's not a single gem that has been turned in yet by TBD. They need to make some plays, and they can't lose heroes like ADRD. So if Zarya dies, yeah, with 20 gems it would be a disaster, but they get the counter kill against Muradin, and they might get a second one as they're moving in to drop Arcane.
Yeah, ADRD dropping a huge amount of damage into the backline. Demounts Danatan here. Root lands onto Rhaegar, who is taken down here. Blade arriving just in time to help out with that. And that's a big move there for To Be Determined, putting themselves in a great position after the Web Weavers didn't really get a huge amount of value, so they are looking great for their own set of Web Weavers.
The grenades always making it a bit difficult for Sergeant Hammer, even when sieged up, to go for that wall, but still in range now to drop the towers. And the blue Web Weavers, as you said, are being dropped now, and that is massive for them. Not only did they already take down some of these walls, but they're also now able to push together with the hammer set up in the backline. The Earthquake is in play by now, and this is starting to become dangerous for beGenius.
Yeah, they're in trouble. They've got their own heroics, and they're going to try and counter this siege coming out from Hammer. Arakin takes a huge set of that Mexican wave from the Web Weaver there, forcing Nick back with the help of Kira. But they're able to drop enough damage to take out the Web Weaver before it does too much more than the towers, and Blade dropping some good harass onto Danatan, especially with that Earthquake. But wow,
the cleanse out of Rhaegar as Li Ming gets stunned, but it's still not enough to save her. Nice attempt by Unstable. He has played an incredible tournament so far, especially on the Wolf. But now the top lane is falling here, and with 3 kills against 1 at level disadvantage, it's starting to look a bit grim for the French team. They had a great start into the game, but now after level 10, the setup here for TBD is powerful and strong.
Yeah, that Hammer's starting to get some really solid value, and the amount of lockdown they're getting is helping out too. Hammer demounting herself pretty quick, DCing herself pretty quickly there, not wanting to get called out, seeing as Li Ming is back. And they want to try and chain those turn-ins together. Li Ming denying that with the disintegrate for the moment, but that's only going to last for so long.
ADRD again with the push here straight to the middle. They still have an entire level lead. We're seeing Thrall. Thrall is being locked down for most of the games by the bot lane, but dropping the Earthquake because he wants to go for Danatan, who gets stunned here once again, attempting to escape with the army of the and is able to get away here. A lot of heroics being dropped to take him down, and they don't succeed. So that's a lot of resources being used to no end. So yeah, well done by Arthur's escaping here, but we still have a bit of push potential happening. And keep in mind, there's another Web Weaver wave also headed the red team's way, since right now TBD is controlling the flow of the game.
Yeah, there's been about 3 attempts on Danatan's life on that Arthas at this point, and he has survived all of them with 0 deaths so far. And he is really the saving grace for his team at the moment, because another turn-in comes in from 2B's determined right now. But this lane, this bot lane, is the one bastion of defense that is left remaining with still 2 towers available.
Yeah, it won't remain for much longer though if they decide to push through this one. 13 talents are ready for TBD, which means that we have now also a double giant killer. Have fun, Muradin and Arthas. They're not going to enjoy this, I can promise you that much. Blade has still 20 gems, and the push is happening currently in the mid lane. They are starting to make a bit of a play for the wall at the keep. Yeah, Muradin moving in from behind? I don't think so. Just look at Hammer at this point, just hammering down the wave before the Web Weavers even appear.
Yeah, they're all moving round fire, the safe route, except for Muradin, who jumps over, cutting out some time for him. Arthur's finishing clearing top lane. They did defend that bottom keep from the Web Weaver. Now it's all about keeping this keep alive. The front wall already down, the towers already down. So now it is all about how much damage they can prevent the keep from taking. The wave does take down the fountain here. And Muradin has been zoning out quite okay with the Stormbolt, and Hammer has unsieged. He does not want to get caught out here.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, the one thing that really was important with the defense as well is, of course, that pushing into an Odin is always a problem. So Arcane dropping that ult definitely put a bit of a halt to the entire engage that we had there. But they are trying to wrap around for a kill. And that would be dirty. Keep that Earthquake in mind. Here comes Muradin, jumping away. Expulsion zone this time not working out. An attempt by Danatan to make a play, going for Kirsten here with the army, trying to have his own survivability guaranteed while pushing the support away, locking him down. Earthquake being used, Giant Killer coming to play now, of course, massively as Nick is trying to drop Arthas, but a superb move on the side of Rhaegar saves him with the Ancestral.
Yeah, the Ancestral was good, but Dantan being worked down again by Nick here, but unstable, going to try and wrap around for it. So far, 0 deaths for either team, and it's going to stay that way. That Ancestral, like you said, was really clutch, but the Earthquake was kind of the saving grace there. Danatan and Tank for the Win couldn't really push into that backline anymore.
The damage output on the side of Hammer is fantastic now, and 16, of course, is going to make this even better one way or another. Probably going to go for the graduating range, could go for the hovering siege mode, which we see a lot less in competitive play though. But right now they are playing just a fantastic game, and the value that Nick gets out of the Giant Killer with his Hammer against the 2 heavy frontliners is absolutely fantastic. Turn in by Blade, they're aiming for a 3rd turn in, they're going for boss at the same time, and it seems like beGenius is completely oblivious to it. The only thing they want to do is get a Web Weaver wave, and they will succeed with that. The problem is they're losing out on the boss, and that is going to take a lot of the damage potential of the Web Weaver wave away, since they will have to deal with it.
Yeah, however, it also works vice versa, where the Web Weavers will assist them in defending against that boss. And then, arguably, that is more important for them at this point, because that boss is going to be pushing onto tier 2s, whereas the Web Weavers are only going onto tier 1s right now. So we are just going to see them leave. Oh no, the Web Weaver missed! The Web Weaver walked past the boss here, so that boss is going to be pushing onto tier 2s. It will deny the minion wave, but instead, we're going to see beGenius try to push with this middle Web Weaver.
There we have now also level 16 reached, and it's Executioner instead. Apparently Hammer wants even more damage. Screw the graduating range, we're not going to siege up anytime soon here. It's all about the damage output, and with the Earthquake you can definitely get this. Here's already the approach to move in. Again the Expulsion Zone is missing. It's getting really unfortunate here that ADRD is not able to lock these targets in. He did very well the last time they played on this map, but this time they are struggling with that a bit. They are able to defend quite nicely though thus far, and the boss, as you can see up here at the top, might just barely not be able to get the keep, but it's so low it will fall eventually.
Yeah, the quick rotations coming out there from beGenius to clear that up, but like you said, the boss able to do so much damage because the Web Weaver just missed it. It spawned just out of aggro range of the boss and just pushed up lane instead of actually defending.
AD already up at the top now already, again defending as we see a bit of a push coming in. They have lost only one fort so far. A single one and that's it. 16 talents are still not ready yet for the opponent's team. Turn-in potential is there, by the way, for both of them more or less. 3 are missing for beGenius, but they can pick those up with them taking out another wave. But it's very likely that we're going to see another blue web weaver wave coming into play very soon. Oh, Arthurs might have to use his ult, does do exactly that. They fight without the talent, and now 16 drops Arthas. This time the Ancestral is not in time. Muradin is in trouble, has to drop his own ult as well. Nick pushes him back. They can get the turn in easily right now and will be able to push in whenever they want to, even go for the waves to make sure that the Web Weavers have a favorable position heading into the game.
Yeah, that Executioner Earthquake allowing Hammer to do so much damage to Arthas as he was locked down a little bit there. Just getting so much value. And even if it had been the other way around, with 2Bs Determined getting caught out, we see that Zarya has taken the Cleansing Shields here, so she can help her team escape any kind of engage even more now, which is why we're seeing them play so aggressively. They already had incredible siege potential, but now they're even safer doing it.
And we have heavy impact. Maybe with that, we could see something happening on the side of beGenius. If they are able to move in against Hammer and drop it, that might be the chance that they have here. Arcane is this time going straight again for the Odin. They have to push into this. Web Weavers are there, and we have them committing to it. Blade is getting ready. He wants to drop that Earthquake again, wants to move in deep for it. But once more, Arcane trying to blast those Web Weavers away. There comes the stun, though, that Benny moves in. Blade still looking for an opportunity to go deep into the opponent's team to drop that Earthquake. The keep is going to fall one way or another, especially with Arthur still being up at the top. But they also eat a lot of damage on Kirva. 2-level advantage, 1 keep down, Web Weaver at the bot lane still active, and maybe even another fight happening here.
Arthas, however, was able to defend the keep up in the top lane, so for now, that will remain. And they don't have to worry about catapults until we see 2Bs Determined rotate up there, which is happening now. So we need to see a very hard defense out of beGenius if they want that to survive. ADRD right now dealing some good harassment. Nick wanted to join him, but that Disintegrate is going to force him back a bit.
Danatan, on the other hand, he's in trouble, dropping the army again. Immediately attempt to wave clear that. Oh, there comes the Earthquake. Talents used as well. They go the kill against Rhaegar. He's down already, and it looks like it's not only the only one. This is the death of Arthurs, of Muradin, the front line eliminated. And 19 versus 16. It looks very much like it's going to be another play for Core here. They're trying to go for it, eliminating the wave first of all, forcing Kiewa back. He might actually die even if ADRD gets another shot then. Not so much, but it looks like it's definitely going to be another victory in favor of 2Bs Determined.
Yeah, they go on to the core. ADRD completely shielded up. He's full on energy, taking out Arakin. Actually, Arakin will barely survive here, but it doesn't matter. The core goes down, and that is GG. Game number 2 goes over to 2Bs Determined.